duration, no beginning can be discerned. 2. The concept of Dharma without beginning is absurd. However, it is in order to destroy these dharmas without beginning that the Prajnaparamita-sutra sets forth here the emptiness of dharmas without beginning. Question. Dharmas without beginning are true and cannot be refuted. Why? To claim that beings and things have a beginning is to fall into the wrong view of believing in extremes and also to fall into the wrong view of absence of causality. To avoid these mistakes, we must say that beings and things are without beginning. Here, in refuting dharmas without beginning by means of anagra sunyata, you are falling again into the wrong view that acknowledges the existence of a beginning. Answer. It is true that by means of anagra sunyata I destroy the wrong view of dharmas without beginning, but, nevertheless, I do not fall into the wrong view of acknowledging the existence of a beginning. In order to save a man from fire, it is not necessary to throw him into deep water. Here I am rejecting the dharmas without beginning, but I do not, however, accept any dharma with beginning. By doing this, I am following the middle way. Question. Why do you reject dharmas with beginning? Answer. 1. Because they would be non-delimited. Being non-delimited, they would not have an end. Non-delimited and without end, they would not have a middle. 2. The absence of a beginning would end up by eliminating the omniscient one. Why? If samsara were non-delimited, one would not know the beginning, and, if no one knew the beginning, there would not be any omniscient one. If there really is an omniscient one, there cannot be any question of Dharma without beginning. 3. Moreover, some grasp the characteristics of a being and grasp singularities and differences in dharmas. As a result of these singularities and differences, they deduce an earlier existence from the present existence and, from the earlier existence, they deduce a still earlier existence and so on. Unable to find a beginning either in beings or in things, they produce the view of dharmas without beginning. But that is a wrong view, having singularities and differences as root, which consequently should be rejected. The emptiness of conditioned dharmas crushes conditioned dharmas. As this emptiness of conditioned dharmas still presents disadvantages, recourse is made to the emptiness of non-conditioned dharmas to crush non-conditioned dharmas. Here I have used dharmas without beginning to crush dharmas with beginning, but as these dharmas without beginning still present disadvantages, I have again used the emptiness of dharmas without beginning to crush these dharmas without beginning. This is what is called emptiness of dharmas without beginning. I2. False in absolute truth, the notion of dharma without beginning is used for salvific purposes. Question. If that is so, why did the Buddha say that the starting point of beings wandering in transmigration is unknown? Answer. The Buddha wants beings to know that the transmigration in which we have wandered for so long a time is great suffering, and he wants us to feel a mind of disgust towards it. 1. Sutras mentioning dharmas without beginning. See what is said in the sutras. Lohita Sutra equals Tim Samata Sutanta. One single man, transmigrating during one single kalpa, as long as he is taking on existences and suffering torment, has collected more blood than there is water in the sea. Asra Sutra equals Asasutanta. Similarly, while he was weeping, he has wept more tears than there is water in the sea. Ksira Sutra equals Kirasutanta. Similarly, he has drunk more mother's milk than there is water in the sea. Isphirasi Sutra equals Pagalasutanta. The bones are piled up surpassing Mount Vaipulya in height. Tinakatha Sortanta. If he has cut into 2-inch pieces all the shrubs and trees of this continent and used them to count his predecessors, his father, grandfather, great-grandfather, etc., his forebears would be far from completely inventoried at the time when the slips were completely used up. Mrdigulaka Sutra equals Pathavasutanta. If he completely formed the earth into balls of clay and used them to count his ancestors, his mothers, grandmothers, great-grandmothers would be far from completely counted at the time when the clay balls were completely used up. 2. These sutras pursue a salvific goal. The starting point of beings who, for innumerable kalpas of this kind, have been suffering the torments of samsara is indiscernible. This is why the mind feels frightened and cuts through the fetters. Although the view of impermanence is an extremist view, the Buddha utilizes impermanence in order to save beings. It is the same with the theory of a beginningless samsara. Even though it may be an extremist view, the Buddha uses it to save beings. In order to save beings and inspire disgust for samsara in them, the Buddha posits a samsara without beginning but it isn't true. Why? Because if there were a samsara without beginning, the Prajnaparamita-sutra would not be talking here about an emptiness of things without beginning. 3. If it is useful, a false doctrine is justified. Question. If things without beginning are not real dharmas, how can they be used to save people? Answer. In the real truth, there are no dharmas to be preached in order to save people. Sermons and people to be saved are conditioned dharmas and false. It is by the use of his power of skillful means that the Buddha speaks of dharmas without beginning, but he speaks of them with detachment. Those who hear him also obtain detachment and, by means of detachment, feel distaste for samsara. Moreover, if we use the knowledge of previous existences, we see that the series of births and deaths is limitless and at that moment it is true. But if we use the eye of wisdom, we see the absolute emptiness of beings and things. This is why the Prajnaparamita-sutra is preaching the emptiness of dharmas without beginning here. It is said in the Prajnaparamita, the vision of the eternal is not true and the vision of the impermanent is not true either. The vision of suffering is not true and the vision of happiness is not true either. However, the Buddha said that the eternal and happiness are errors whereas the impermanent and suffering are true because beings are particularly attached to the eternal and to happiness whereas they are not attached to the impermanent and to suffering. Therefore the Buddha is using the truth of impermanence and suffering to destroy the error about the eternal and happiness. This is why he says that impermanence and suffering are true. But if beings were attached to impermanence and suffering, he would say that impermanence and suffering are empty. It is the same here for dharmas with or without beginning. The idea of non-beginning destroys the error about beginning. But as beings are attached to things without beginning, the Prajnaparamita-sutra adds that these things without beginning are empty. This is what is called emptiness of dharmas without beginning. 4. Why are dharmas with beginning not expressly refuted? Question. Dharmas with beginning also a wrong view and should be refuted. Why does the Prajnaparamita-sutra refute only dharmas without beginning here? Answer. Because dharmas with beginning are obvious errors. Why is that? If samsara had a beginning, from the very first existence, one would be born in good places or in bad places in the absence of any demeritorious or meritorious causes or conditions. If the birth